Welcome to Wrestling Throne, where we dive deep into the stories of the legends who shaped professional wrestling. Today we're talking about a man who redefined what it means to be powerful in WWE, a competitor whose sheer strength became the stuff of legend, and whose journey from Olympic weightlifter to WWE superstar inspired millions around the world. Mark Henry, known universally as the world's strongest man, didn't just earn that nickname through marketing or hype. He legitimately backed it up with accomplishments that few athletes in any sport could ever dream of achieving. Born on June 12, 1971, in Silsbee, Texas, Mark Gerald Henry grew up in a small town where football was king and physical strength was respected above almost everything else. From an early age, Henry showed exceptional athletic ability, particularly in sports that required raw power. He excelled in football during his high school years, earning recognition as a standout player who could dominate both sides of the line. His combination of size, speed, and strength made him a formidable presence on the field, and college scouts took notice. Henry received a scholarship to play football at the University of Arkansas, where he would continue to develop his athletic prowess while pursuing his education. At Arkansas, Henry played as a defensive lineman and quickly established himself as one of the strongest players on the team. However, it was during his time at university that Henry discovered his true calling in the world of competitive weightlifting. While training in the weight room to improve his football performance, coaches noticed that Henry possessed extraordinary strength that went beyond what was typical even for elite college athletes. He could move weights that seemed impossible for someone his age, and his natural ability in Olympic lifting movements suggested he had the potential to compete at the highest levels of the sport. Encouraged by his coaches and intrigued by the possibility of pushing his physical limits even further, Henry began training seriously in powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, and strongman competitions. The decision to focus on strength sports rather than continuing with football proved to be life-changing. Henry's accomplishments in weightlifting and strongman competitions are genuinely remarkable, even when compared to the greatest strength athletes in history. He won the United States National Weightlifting Championship, demonstrating mastery of the clean and jerk and snatch techniques that define Olympic weightlifting. He also claimed the U.S. National Powerlifting Championship, showcasing his ability in the squat, bench press, and deadlift. Perhaps most impressively, Henry became a Pan American Games champion and competed in the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, representing the United States on the world stage in weightlifting. Beyond these official competitions, Henry set numerous American records in various weight classes and lifting disciplines. His raw strength numbers were staggering, with squats exceeding 900 pounds, deadlifts over 900 pounds, and bench presses approaching 600 pounds. In strongman competitions, he could flip cars, pull trucks, and lift Atlas stones that weighed hundreds of pounds as if they were toys. These weren't exaggerations or worked numbers designed for entertainment purposes. These were legitimate, verified lifts performed in sanctioned competitions with proper judging and equipment. When WWE began calling Mark Henry the world's strongest man, they weren't engaging in typical wrestling hyperbole. They were making a statement that had substantial credibility behind it. WWE first became aware of Henry's incredible strength during the mid-1990s when the company was always on the lookout for unique athletes who could bring something special to professional wrestling. The combination of Henry's legitimate athletic credentials, his imposing physical presence, and his potential marketability made him an attractive prospect for WWE. In 1996, the same year Henry competed in the Olympics, WWE chairman Vince McMahon offered him a 10-year contract, one of the longest and most lucrative deals the company had ever offered to a newcomer at that time. The contract demonstrated WWE's belief that Henry could become a major star and their willingness to invest heavily in his development as a professional wrestler. Henry's arrival in WWE came during an interesting transitional period for the company. The Attitude Era was just beginning to take shape, and WWE was experimenting with edgier content, more realistic storylines, and characters that felt more three-dimensional than the cartoon-like personas of the previous generation. Henry debuted in 1996 and was immediately positioned as a powerful force, though his early character work left something to be desired. WWE initially struggled to find the right personality for Henry, cycling through various gimmicks and storylines that didn't quite capture what made him special. He was managed by different people, placed in different factions, and given different character motivations, but none of these early attempts really clicked with audiences. One of the more memorable but also controversial aspects of Henry's early WWE career was his involvement in storylines with Mae Young, the legendary women's wrestler who was in her 70s at the time. The storyline, which included a romantic angle and eventually Mae Young giving birth to a hand, was pure Attitude Era absurdity. While it certainly got attention and remains memorable to fans who watched during that period, it didn't necessarily help establish Henry as a serious main event threat. Instead, it positioned him more as a comedy character, which seemed like a waste of his legitimate athletic credentials and physical capabilities. Throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s, Henry remained with WWE but often found himself in the midcard, competing for secondary championships or serving as an enforcer for various factions. He joined the Nation of Domination briefly, aligning with The Rock, D'Lo Brown, and other members of that influential stable. While this association gave him more television time and connected him with established stars, Henry still hadn't quite found his footing as a singles competitor who could carry major storylines on his own. Injuries also began to plague Henry during this period, with various leg, knee, and back issues forcing him to take time away from the ring to recover and rehabilitate. The injury problems became so severe that there were legitimate questions about whether Henry would be able to continue his wrestling career. Multiple surgeries were required, and the recovery periods were lengthy and difficult. For an athlete whose entire identity was built around physical strength and dominance, being sidelined by injuries was particularly frustrating. Henry has spoken in interviews about how dark some of those periods were, dealing not just with the physical pain but also with the uncertainty about his future and the fear that his career might end before he had truly achieved his potential in WWE. The company stood by him during these difficult times, honoring the long-term contract they had signed and supporting his rehabilitation efforts, but there was an understanding that something needed to change when he returned. When Henry did return from injury, WWE made various attempts to repackage him and find a character that would resonate. He was given new entrance music, new ring gear, and new storylines, but the results were mixed. He won the European Championship, held tag team gold with various partners, and had feuds with established stars, but he still wasn't positioned as a top-tier threat who could headline major pay-per-view events. Fans respected his strength and appreciated his work ethic, but there was a sense that Henry was underachieving relative to his potential and that WWE hadn't figured out how to maximize his unique attributes. The real turning point in Mark Henry's career came in 2011, more than 15 years after he first signed with WWE. By this point, Henry was nearly 40 years old, an age when most wrestlers are either retired or winding down their careers in reduced roles. Many people within WWE and among the fanbase assumed that Henry would eventually be phased out, perhaps moving into a backstage role or making occasional appearances for nostalgia purposes. Instead, Henry was about to embark on the best run of his entire career, a period that would finally establish him as a legitimate main event star and earn him the respect he had deserved all along. The catalyst for this transformation was a character shift that emphasized Henry's most intimidating qualities while giving him a more serious, focused persona. Gone were the comedy elements and the ineffective gimmicks that had held him back for so long. In their place emerged a Mark Henry who was genuinely menacing, who spoke with conviction about his strength and his ability to hurt people, and who backed up his words with dominant performances in the ring. He began wearing suits to the ring before matches, presenting himself as a professional who took his craft seriously. His promos became more intense, with Henry speaking slowly and deliberately, making every word count and creating an atmosphere of impending violence. The Hall of Pain gimmick became the defining character work of Henry's career. He announced that he was putting WWE's entire roster on notice, that anyone who stepped into the ring with him was entering the Hall of Pain, and that he was going to destroy everyone in his path. What made this work so effectively was the believability behind it. When Mark Henry said he was the strongest man in WWE and that he could hurt people, fans believed it because of his legitimate strength credentials. When he executed his finishing move, the world's strongest slam, it looked devastating because of the power with which he delivered it. When he stood over fallen opponents and surveyed the damage he had caused, there was a genuine sense that this man was dangerous. Henry's matches during this period reflected his new character perfectly. He wasn't trying to be a high flyer or a technical wizard. He was a force of nature who used his strength to overwhelm opponents. He would absorb their best offense, shrug it off, and then destroy them with power moves that looked legitimately painful. His offense was simple but brutally effective, consisting of slams, splashes, and strikes that emphasized impact over complexity. The simplicity actually enhanced the character rather than limiting it, because it made everything feel more real and more dangerous. You didn't need elaborate sequences or complicated spots to understand that Mark Henry was a threat. His mere presence in the ring communicated that. The Hall of Pain era produced some of the most memorable moments of Henry's career. He engaged in feuds with top stars including Randy Orton, John Cena, and Big Show, finally receiving the main event positioning that had eluded him for so long. He won the World Heavyweight Championship, an accomplishment that validated his years of hard work and perseverance. When Henry held that championship, it felt earned in a way that many title reigns don't, because fans had watched his journey over 15 years and knew how many obstacles he had overcome to reach that point. The title reign might not have been the longest in WWE history, but it was meaningful and memorable, which is sometimes more important than longevity. One particular moment from this period stands out as perhaps the greatest promo of Mark Henry's career. In June 2013, Henry appeared on Monday Night Raw and delivered an emotional speech that appeared to be a retirement announcement. He talked about his career, his accomplishments, and how grateful he was for the opportunity WWE had given him. He became visibly emotional, his voice cracking as he talked about leaving the business he loved. The audience responded with genuine appreciation, chanting, "Thank you, Mark," and giving him the respect he deserved for his long career. John Cena, who was WWE champion at the time, came to the ring to shake Henry's hand and pay his respects. It was a beautiful moment that seemed to be a fitting send-off for a veteran performer. Then Henry attacked Cena with vicious intensity, destroying the champion and standing over him with a smile that revealed the entire retirement speech had been a ruse designed to lure Cena into a false sense of security. The line, "That's what I do," became an instant classic, with Henry's delivery perfectly capturing the satisfaction of someone who had just pulled off a brilliant con. The promo has been remembered as one of the greatest worked shoots in wrestling history, a masterclass in storytelling that played with audience emotions and expectations in exactly the way great professional wrestling should. It was proof that Henry had developed not just as a physical performer but as a complete entertainer who understood psychology and could deliver compelling character work. Throughout his career, Henry's contributions extended beyond his in-ring performances. He became a respected locker room veteran, someone younger wrestlers could learn from both in terms of work ethic and professional conduct. Henry was known for being generous with his time and knowledge, offering advice to newer talents and helping them understand the business. His longevity in WWE and his willingness to work with and elevate younger talent made him valuable to the company even as his in-ring schedule became more limited in later years. He understood that part of being a veteran was preparing the next generation, and he took that responsibility seriously. Henry also became known for his work outside the wrestling ring, including various charitable endeavors and community involvement. He was particularly passionate about youth athletics and strength training, using his platform to encourage young people to pursue fitness and athletic excellence. His own journey from a small town in Texas to Olympic competition to WWE stardom served as an inspirational story that resonated with people who faced their own obstacles and challenges. Henry spoke openly about his struggles with injuries, with finding his character in WWE, and with the doubts he faced along the way, making his eventual success feel even more significant. As his active in-ring career wound down, Henry transitioned into other roles within WWE and the broader entertainment industry. He became a commentator, providing analysis for matches and adding his perspective based on decades of experience in the business. His commentary work was well received, with fans appreciating his authenticity and his ability to explain the physical aspects of wrestling in ways that enhanced understanding and appreciation of what performers were doing in the ring. He also appeared in various media projects, including films and television shows, expanding his reach beyond the wrestling audience. The respect that Henry earned from his peers became evident when various wrestlers, both past and present, spoke about his influence on their careers and on the wrestling business as a whole. Main event stars praised his willingness to work with them and make them look good. Younger talents talked about the advice he gave them backstage. Legends from previous generations acknowledged his legitimate strength credentials and his ability to bridge the gap between legitimate athletic competition and sports entertainment. When WWE inducted Mark Henry into the Hall of Fame in 2018, it felt like the culmination of a journey that had taken him from Olympic weightlifting to the pinnacle of professional wrestling recognition. The Hall of Fame induction speech Henry delivered captured the essence of his career and his character. He talked about the challenges he faced, the injuries that nearly ended his career multiple times, and the satisfaction of finally achieving main event success later in his career when many people had written him off. He thanked the people who supported him along the way, including WWE management, fellow wrestlers, and the fans who stuck with him through various character changes and storylines. He also made it clear that he wasn't finished contributing to wrestling, that he wanted to continue helping younger talent and giving back to the business that had given him so much. The speech was heartfelt without being overly sentimental, proud without being arrogant, exactly what you would expect from someone who had earned respect through hard work and perseverance. Looking at Mark Henry's career comprehensively, what stands out is the perseverance and the willingness to continue working toward success even when success seemed unlikely or impossible. Many wrestlers who debut with the kind of fanfare and contract that Henry received would have become bitter or checked out if they didn't achieve immediate main event success. Henry instead kept working, kept improving, and kept believing that his opportunity would come. When it finally did come, more than 15 years into his WWE tenure, he was ready for it. He had the maturity, the experience, and the refined character work necessary to make the most of that opportunity and deliver some of the best work of his career when he was nearly 40 years old. The legacy of Mark Henry extends beyond his individual accomplishments and championship reigns. He proved that legitimate athletic credentials matter in professional wrestling, that having a real background in competitive sports can enhance credibility and add layers to a wrestling character. He demonstrated that persistence and professional conduct can eventually be rewarded even in an industry known for politics and favoritism. He showed that it's never too late to reinvent yourself and find success, that age and injury setbacks don't have to define the end of your story. These lessons resonate not just with aspiring wrestlers but with anyone facing challenges in their chosen field. Henry's influence can be seen in how WWE and other wrestling promotions have approached signing and developing athletes from other sports. The success of his Hall of Fame character and his eventual main event run validated WWE's long-term investment in him and encouraged the company to continue seeking out legitimate athletes who could bring credibility to their roster. Wrestlers like Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, and later Ronda Rousey all benefited from the path that Henry helped establish, showing that real athletic accomplishment could translate to wrestling success when combined with proper character development and storytelling. The physicality that Henry brought to WWE was also significant. In an era when wrestlers were often getting smaller and more focused on high-flying or technical wrestling styles, Henry represented a different approach. He was a throwback to an earlier era when size and strength were the most valued attributes in professional wrestling, but he performed in a modern context where those attributes needed to be balanced with character work and storytelling ability. His best matches weren't necessarily technical classics or high-spot showcases. They were compelling because of the story they told and the believable violence they portrayed. Henry made power wrestling feel relevant and effective in contemporary WWE, proving that there would always be a place for competitors who could dominate through sheer physical superiority. The relationship between Henry and WWE was built on mutual respect and long-term thinking that isn't always present in the wrestling industry. WWE honored the long contract they signed with Henry even when he was injured or struggling to find his character. In return, Henry remained loyal to WWE, turning down opportunities to work elsewhere and committing himself to improving and contributing however the company needed him. When WWE finally gave him the Hall of Fame character and main event push, Henry delivered beyond expectations, proving that the company's patience and investment had been worthwhile. This kind of long-term relationship building is rare in professional wrestling, where short-term thinking and immediate results often dominate decision-making. Henry's work with other wrestlers throughout his career deserves recognition as well. He had memorable feuds and matches with an incredible variety of opponents, from high flyers like Rey Mysterio to technical wrestlers like Kurt Angle to fellow powerhouses like The Big Show. Each feud required Henry to adjust his approach and his in-ring work to best complement his opponent's style while still maintaining his character as an unstoppable force. The willingness to adapt and work with different styles demonstrated professional versatility that isn't always associated with power wrestlers, who are sometimes unfairly characterized as one-dimensional or limited. The cultural impact of Henry's career also extends to representation and diversity in professional wrestling. As an African-American performer who achieved main event success and Hall of Fame recognition, Henry joined an important lineage of black wrestlers who broke barriers and achieved at the highest levels of the industry. He has spoken about the responsibility he felt to represent his community well and to open doors for future generations of diverse talent in wrestling. While WWE and professional wrestling more broadly still have work to do in terms of equal opportunity and representation, wrestlers like Mark Henry helped advance the conversation and demonstrate that talent and drawing power aren't limited by race or background. In terms of pure entertainment value, the Mark Henry character provided WWE with a reliable heel who could generate genuine heat and make babyface opponents look heroic for standing up to him. The best villains in professional wrestling are those who feel like legitimate threats, where the audience genuinely wonders whether the hero can overcome them. Henry's Hall of Pain character accomplished this perfectly. When John Cena or Randy Orton stepped into the ring with Henry during that period, there was real suspense about the outcome because Henry's strength made him believable as someone who could defeat anyone on any given night. This kind of credible villain is invaluable for storytelling purposes and helps elevate everyone involved in the program. Henry's longevity in WWE, spanning more than 2 decades if you include his various post-retirement roles, is itself an achievement worthy of recognition. The wrestling business is notoriously difficult on performers' bodies, and careers that last even 10 years are considered successful. Henry competed for 20 years while dealing with multiple serious injuries that could have ended his career. The fact that he not only survived but eventually thrived speaks to his toughness, his commitment to rehabilitation and conditioning, and his mental fortitude in dealing with setbacks and disappointments. The evolution of Mark Henry's character from his debut to his Hall of Fame induction is a fascinating study in how wrestlers and wrestling companies can course correct and find success even after years of false starts. Henry's early character work didn't connect, and he spent years in positions that didn't maximize his potential. A less dedicated performer might have given up or simply collected paychecks while doing the minimum required. Instead, Henry continued working to improve his promo skills, his ring psychology, and his understanding of what made wrestling characters compelling. When WWE finally gave him the opportunity to showcase a character that fit his legitimate credentials and intimidating presence, he was ready because he had put in the work during those years of underutilization. The mentorship role that Henry has embraced in his post-active competition career ensures that his influence on professional wrestling will extend well beyond his own matches and storylines. The knowledge and experience he shares with younger talent helps them avoid mistakes, understand the business side of wrestling, and develop their characters more effectively. Some of WWE's current stars have credited Henry with giving them advice that changed their careers or helped them through difficult periods. This willingness to give back and help others succeed is part of Henry's legacy and reflects the respect he has for the business that gave him opportunities. The strength records and athletic accomplishments that Mark Henry achieved before ever stepping into a WWE ring remain remarkable and worthy of recognition independent of his wrestling career. The fact that he was able to transition from legitimate strength sports to professional wrestling and eventually achieve major success in both realms is extremely rare. Very few athletes have competed at Olympic levels in their sport and then gone on to become world champions in professional wrestling. The combination of legitimate athletic excellence and sports entertainment success makes Henry's career unique in the history of professional wrestling. When examining the greatest power wrestlers in WWE history, Mark Henry deserves consideration alongside names like Bruno Sammartino, Bill Goldberg, and Brock Lesnar. What distinguishes Henry is the legitimacy of his strength credentials and the long-term nature of his success. While some power wrestlers achieved quick success and then faded, Henry's career was a marathon that required patience, persistence, and continual reinvention. The Hall of Pain era represented the peak of his in-ring success, but the entire 20-year journey was necessary to reach that peak and make it meaningful. Mark Henry's story is ultimately one of realized potential, even if that realization came later than expected. He entered WWE with enormous expectations as one of the strongest humans on the planet and a legitimate Olympic-level athlete. For many years, it seemed like he might never fulfill those expectations, that he would be remembered as a what could have been story rather than as a true star. But Henry's persistence, Wee's continued investment, and the eventual discovery of the right character allowed him to achieve main event success and cement a legacy that extends far beyond his early career struggles. The journey from promising rookie to underutilized mid-carder to Hall of Fame main eventer is inspiring precisely because it wasn't easy or predetermined. Mark Henry had to earn every accolade, overcome every setback, and prove himself worthy of the opportunities he received. The power of Mark Henry, both literally and figuratively, changed WWE and influenced professional wrestling in ways that continue to resonate today. His legitimate strength gave credibility to WWE's product and reminded audiences that professional wrestling, while predetermined, still requires incredible athleticism and physical ability. His character work during the Hall of Pain era demonstrated how effective simplicity and authenticity can be when creating compelling wrestling personas. His longevity and persistence showed that careers can have multiple chapters and that success can come at unexpected times if you remain dedicated and professional. His willingness to help younger talent ensures that his influence will continue shaping wrestling for years to come. Mark Henry was, is, and always will be the world's strongest man, and his impact on WWE and professional wrestling more broadly has proven to be just as powerful as the weights he lifted and the opponents he conquered throughout his legendary career. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into the career of a true legend. If you enjoyed this content and want to see more stories about the icons who built professional wrestling, make sure to follow, subscribe, and like.